Ohio Governor John Kasich, who's running for the Republican nomination, wants to set up a new government agency to promote religion.
You talked about a new agency that you're promoting today that would help promote Judeo-Christian values around the globe. You're promoting a new government agency, is that correct?
Well, you know, look, there's nobody that's spent more time shrinking government and cutting budgets than I have. But you also have to have priorities. You know, when it comes to creating priorities, everything isn't equal. And, you know, trying to make everything totally consistent is the hobgoblin of small ideas. So
let's be clear, what does the agency look, in real terms, what would this new agency you're promoting look like?
Well, its job would be fundamentally to revive what we used to do when we beamed messages into the former Soviet Union. I mean, we need to beam messages around the world about what it means to have a Western ethic, to be part of a Judeo-Christian society. It means freedom, it means opportunity, it means respect for women, it means freedom to gather, it means so many things. And to be able to send these messages into a place like Russia, which is absolutely trying to prevent people from hearing the truth, or even in China when they try to figure out how to limit the effectiveness of the internet, and of course most particularly in the Middle East, where young radicals are constantly fed ideas that lead to more radicalization. I think it's essential we begin to spread who we are and why we are who we are and what we represent. It is essential that we do promote this message. It's essential, by the way, that those in the West begin to embrace again our Jewish and Christian tradition rather than running from it, hiding from it, creating...
What does that say to atheists and Muslims and Buddhists and all the others that live in our melting pot, as you describe it?
Well, I also think that we have many moderate Muslims who share our views. There are many of them. They condemn the Paris attacks. I think there are many of them that stand out and stand up and speak out, and they should be included in this, and they'd be a very effective part of this.
All right, so propaganda, essentially. I mean, this is what this is. He said, well, let's go back to what we were doing during the Cold War, beaming Russians propaganda. Well, call it what it is, because that's exactly what it is. And as he mentioned, it wouldn't be the first time that we did this kind of propaganda. We've done it pretty much in every war. You know, we've done it in World War II, we did it during the Cold War. Okay, it's propaganda. Just call it propaganda. No, there's no problem with that. Every country does propaganda. We get it, as long as you can tell the difference between propaganda and regular media. Now that said, the problem that I have with this is the Judeo-Christian part, the emphasis on the Judeo-Christian values. America's a secular nation. Beaming Christian propaganda at the Middle East, at Russia, which ironically, Vladimir Putin is a Christian. And they've done a lot of, basically, Russia, I think, is majority Christian at this point. Why are you beaming it at Russia? I don't understand. China, yes, I get. I don't know why we'd want to beam it at China, to be honest with you. They're one of our biggest trading partners. Also a geopolitical, not really foe, but not exactly a friend either. I get that. Around the Middle East, etc. We want to beam propaganda, basically Christian religious propaganda from a government agency at different countries in the world. As I said, the problem with that is that we're a secular nation. And if you do it to the Middle East, as they really want to do it, what's that really going to help with the whole Christians are, you know, against Muslims narrative? It's actually going to make that narrative stronger. Oh, look at the great Satan. That's what they call America, right? They're beaming, they're trying to brainwash us into Christianity. See, they're against Muslims. It actually helps ISIS. It actually helps the Daesh. It's a good recruiting tool. Now, he also said, our Jewish Christian tradition, as he had said, oh, well, there are many moderate Muslims who share our views. Yeah, okay. And they actually are speaking up, and they're standing out, or they're standing up and speaking out, and so they should be included in this. But see, here's the thing: if you're beaming religious propaganda that is Christian, that is Judeo-Christian, Well, that doesn't exactly include Muslims or Buddhists, and I think the journalist was very, very right to ask that question. What about the others? What about the others? Oh, well, you know, we'll include them, kind of, I guess. Once again, this sort of points to the false narrative that we are a Christian nation. We're not. There are numerous historical documents that show that we are not a nation founded on Christianity. We're not a Christian nation. If you remember the Treaty of Tripoli. Quote, as the government of the United States of America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion, as it has in itself no character of enmity against the laws, religion, or tranquility of Muslimen. We know them now as Muslims. So this is specifically towards Islam. And as the said states have never entered into any war or active hostility against any Mohammedan nation, it is declared by the parties that no pretext arising from religious opinions shall ever produce an interruption of the harmony existing between the two countries. Basically saying that we're not a Christian nation, and we're not going to go to war with you over religion. Now, we're not exactly, like, Governor Kasich isn't saying we should go to war, but he is saying, let's beam religious Christian propaganda towards other countries that we're not exactly friendly with. That seems rather unconstitutional, doesn't it? Especially when it comes to the idea of the separation of church and state. And it also seems to promote one religion over another. Now, of course, you're going to get idiots that say things like, but we are a Christian nation. It's on our money. In God we trust. It's on our money. Not only that, but the Pledge of Allegiance says, under God. Checkmate, atheists. Checkmate. No, not checkmate. Those things were changed deliberately by a Christian president, a Christian Congress, and a Christian Supreme Court in the 1950s, as we were, once again, going back to Kasich's example, the Cold War. When we started beaming in messages to the Soviets, we were also doing things like changing in God we trust. In our money, we used to have E pluribus unum as our national motto. That is out of one, many. Of course, that sounded too socialist, too communist. So we had to say, no, we got God on our side. Let's put that on our money. Also ironic, Pledge of Allegiance was created by a socialist named Francis Bellamy. I'm just saying, and it didn't have the words under God in it until the 1950s, where we added it to fight the communists. As I said, we're not a Christian nation. But here's the overall point of this, of why it's wrong. Other than the other stuff that I pointed out, you're going to turn off the Muslims by pushing those moderate Muslims that you want to stand up against radical Islam, right? That's your goal. You want to fight against radical Islam. That's fine. I'm with you. I don't like radical fundamentalist religion of any stripe. Let's fight against that. Let's fight a war of ideas. May the best ideas win. And guess what? Those ideas aren't Christian. Those ideas aren't Muslim. Those ideas aren't Jewish. They're secular. They're secular values. Those would win. But you're going to push off moderate Muslims. You're going to push them away by shooting religious propaganda at them. It's better and more effective to actually come at them with a secular system. Secular values are a lot like religious values, but without the dogma, right? And it's also without that exclusionary language. Anybody can be secular. Everyone is welcome as long as you're a decent human being. Secular means that you can just be a good person and you live your life without needing religion to tell you how to be a good person. It also means telling people of different religions that they're free to practice their faith without fear and prejudice, just like Christians have been able to do in America for hundreds of years. And when it comes to Kasich and this whole idea of not only creating a government agency in order to promote Christian, Judeo-Christian values and beam it to other nations, it's unconstitutional. for one. And for two, ironically, it would grow government even more. Weird, right? And that's the thing. These people don't even think about these kinds of things before they say them. And they often forget that they're caught on tape. When it comes down to it, turns out that despite of what we might have thought, Kasich isn't exactly the same one.